Top Gun Maverick is shattering records. It fell behind a little bit with all the new releases like Lightyear and Elvis and Jurassic World, but still, this movie is breaking records. It's on track to be the highest grossing movie this year, possibly breaking $1 billion. Where is it sitting now? You said 926 million, is that right?
That is correct. That's
a lot of money. That is a
not
lot
that
of
actually
money.
doesn't account for Friday's numbers, and Saturday's numbers, which obviously they usually take a little bit of time to kind of come in. But
It's a unique case because any movie to get up to that point in recent memory has been Marvel or Disney or some huge franchise that we keep getting reminded about.
Still a franchise.
Well, I guess now, does a sequel make it a franchise? We'll see. But we've seen other sequels fail and make significantly less money. There's a uniqueness to Top Gun that is making it successful, that is making it beat out things that are coming after it, like Lightyear. We're going to delve into that, but before we even do that, we talk a lot about money and the money that movies make just based on, we make that sort of a marker for the quality of a film. And trailers will boast, the highest grossing movie of the summer. What does it mean? Where does the money come from? Where does it go? And are the numbers what we think they are? I think it's really important that as we talk more about what this industry runs on, that we understand how the money flows through the industry. Dan, you're kind of our expert on this. Can you give us an outline and understanding so that the next time that we do bring up money, we know where everything's going and what that means?
yeah, sure. I'm a big fan of this movie in particular, as you can tell. But the way movies make money. Let's do something new that we haven't done on the show yet, ever before, really. I'm gonna take you guys into my notebook and I'll break it down for you. So, how movies make money, and in this case, we're talking about Top Gun. So let's write that out there. The budget for this thing, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's around 150 million.
Okay.
That's the budget. Now, usually movies, studios on big tent poles, they spend just as much as basically the budget in advertising. So in marketing, they call it P&A, promotions and advertising.
I
So-
love this, I must say. I feel like I'm a student in a lecture. I'm like so in. Sorry, professor, carry on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here we go. So let me organize that a little bit better. Budget, and we'll say P&A. P&A would be, again, promotions and advertising. Don't get the wrong idea there. Let's pretend that it's 125 million, because most of these numbers are not official, right? Like these numbers tend to usually be estimates, because studios don't generally want that number, the actual numbers, to get out there.
And what's budget, Dan? Did you explain what the budget is?
The budget
So
is the
what's film's
production
budget?
cost, right? Like everything from paying for the thousands of dollars for per hour of flight in each F-18 that they flew for this movie, paying for insurance, production insurance, to insure Tom Cruise and his other fellow actors getting into an F-18 in case something goes wrong. It's also things like, the cameras that they use, that all the above the line, aka the director, the actors, the producers, and the below the line talent, like the camera units and the second unit guys who are just shooting the jets for exterior shots and no actual actors inside. All of those things are accounted for under the production budget. That even includes things like post-production, and includes like ADR work in post, so when you're bringing actors back in to redo their dialogues, and
But it's not part of the distribution.
So it's not part of the budget that goes into making the trailer. It's not part of the budget that goes into booking Tom Cruise's flight to go on James Corden and do that video and short film that he did with him. That's all part of the P&A. So all, if you add that up, now again, these are estimates. They could be higher. I might be actually undershooting these numbers. I'm pretty sure they spent more than 150 on this in terms of the budget, and they probably spent as much as 125, if not more. So you do that totals out to, if you do some quick math here, that's about $275 million. Oh, that's the wrong symbol for dollar. 275 million. So that's what Paramount Pictures has spent on this movie. That's a lot of money.
Where does that come from?
Correct.
Where does the money come from?
Where does the money? Yeah, good question. So movie studios are not sitting on a pile of cash. This isn't Apple or Amazon. They don't have that kind of money sitting around. Right. The way they get this money is they have financiers, they have investors, they have banks, like literally like Chase and like JP Morgan Chase, like those kind of banks have entire wings for entertainment investing.
So it's like a business opportunity, essentially.
Yeah.
You don't need to be in the film business in order to invest into it.
Right. Yeah. So when you're investing in it, you're expecting to make a profit on your investment. And so people can take shares of a movie, is what I'm understanding.
Essentially. So movies like this usually get, well, this is a studio franchise in a manner of speaking, right? Like it's already got a movie before this, so it's easier to sell the sequel. But usually if it was like, for example, if this was the first and only Top Gun movie, what would happen is somebody would write the script and a concept, like, or they bought originally an article from a local newspaper and built the story off of that. And then what they did is they attached a guy like Tom Cruise to it. Then you get a director, like, you know, I think Tony Scott directed the original, like Joseph Kosinski directed the new one. So you attach, and then now you're packaging it. You do that with a talent agency. Now you package the movie. You have a script, you have a director, you have your lead actor, or maybe you have a lead actor and the supporting cast. And now you go to investors. You go to a bidding process if it's not one studio. In this case, Paramount was the only one. But and usually those studios have financial backers, which we just talked about. And then one of them obviously gets to win that bidding war, if you will, if there is a bidding war. And now basically the investors are, hey, we put this money in, we expect to get a certain amount of money back, basically everything we put in, and then a certain amount of profit. Now each time it's all negotiated differently each time around, so it's hard to kind of put a number on it, you know.
But as we know, a lot of the sequels like this flop. So something that they've done, you know, 20 years ago. What did make people say, or like have, because of course they had to come up with some sort of pitch deck or something and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. What did actually make investors invest? Why would anyone put money into Top Gun without knowing how it's going to perform?
Well, the way Tom Cruise
my question is, what attracted?
Way Tom Cruise described it, he went back to Paramount's when he said, okay, you know what, now I want to do this. I think he didn't want to do this movie until they had the right story to tell, and they were able to do it in a way which improved upon the original by putting actors in the fighter jets and actually being able to use that footage, because they did that in the original, but most actors kept passing out, so they couldn't use that. Only Tom Cruise's footage from inside the jet was used in the original. This time out, he went through a lot more basically, you know, painstaking work to train these actors, and through real fighter pilot training. And, you know, why you invest in this new movie? A, is Tom Cruise, like, arguably the last movie star in Hollywood today, and then you have his track record. You have Paramount Pictures, you know, saying, okay, well, the original Top Gun was huge. Tom Cruise is a big star right now. He's making 2 new Mission Impossible movies for us, so why not? So part of it is, it's always a leap of faith. There's no such thing as a guarantee in Hollywood. Every movie could be a flop. So
you're forgetting about the biggest magnet of why any US investor would put their money into it. It is an
American military movie, and the Navy in this case was heavily involved. So yes, that is also part of the process.
It's a glorification of US military.
Oh, obviously. I mean, it is. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of that's part of the premise here. So that all goes into it. Now, 275 million is the spend that Paramount has on this. Like, and again, this is an estimate. It may as well be lower or higher than that number. So, Andrew, now tell me a little bit about what you know with regard to, once the movie is out in theaters, like, how do they make their money?
Well, I mean, it's ticket sales at first. You know, it's people going to see the movie. And if the advertising works, if the trailers have been successful and people are excited to go see it, they spend their money. If they see it in 3D, they spend more money. If they see it in IMAX, they spend even more money. And sometimes, if they like it, they see it a second time or a third time, or in this case, 3 or 4 times is what we're seeing with a lot of people for Top Gun.
So right now, this movie has made $926 million, right?
Yeah.
Now I want to do some math here, and one of you guys pull out the calculator, help me out here a little bit. So when movies, and I'll tell you what to do with it in just a second, but the way movies make money is not quite as simple as they spent $275 million on the movie. They made so far $926 million at the box office. And well, if you do the simple math there, 926 minus 275 equals somewhere in the region of 651.
Yep.
$1 million off the top of my head.
Numbers thrown at me, so I didn't press anything in the calculator. I'm glad you guys had that.
651 million.
651. So you thinking, oh, Paramount is walking away with $651 million in profit, not to mention 926 in revenue. However, that's not true. Mags, you know why? Because we're not in the old studio system anymore. Paramount does not own the distribution companies. They do not own AMC or Regal, right?
So I was waiting for that. I was like, are we sure about that number? But
yeah, Mags, to give us a little context, like back in the day in the old studio system, how things used to be versus what they are now, and why things are different.
Well, Dan, I have done this research last year, but let me refresh my memory
just
really
briefly.
quickly.
Yeah.
So essentially every production studio, well, there were the big fives, the MGM, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, Disney, I suppose. They all sort of owned their cinemas in Hollywood. And what happened was, one day, I mean, if you wanted to,
there was a court
I don't know,
case.
for example,
They got
Paramount.
sued,
Yeah, there was a court case, but just to explain it, yes, like if Top Gun would have played in Paramount cinemas, they were only exclusively being able to show it there. So small cinemas had no rights to even show this film, and they would have taken all the profit. So obviously there was a lot of people losing on money. And what happened was there was a big case, Paramount Creed, where they essentially broke the whole system apart. And from that day, this no longer happens. Like, theaters cannot take the cut on the film they own. Like, the cinemas are no longer owned specifically by the distribution by production studios.
It's not vertically integrated anymore. Theater chains are no longer owned by the movie studio, so the movie studios can't make the movie, distribute it in their own theaters, and charge a premium to other theaters to play their movies. And that's basic. And ironically enough, the defendant in that case, that landmark case, was Paramount Pictures.
Paramount.
Right? Which
it's
is the
even
studio
called
behind
Paramount
this movie.
Creed.
So, so that's how they broke it up. Nowadays, AMC, Regal, there's other smaller mom and pop theaters and other brands around the world who own the theaters that you go to see the movie in. Now, those theaters, they on average, now this depends and it varies by the market. In China, the percentage favors the theaters more. In most other parts of the world, including North America, the percentage it favors the studio. But on average, it works out to be this: about 60% of the tape from the movie is taken up by the studio, and around 40% of the take of the box office is taken up by the theaters. This is all negotiated on a per studio, per AMC, Regal, cinema chain basis.
But Dan, isn't that right? That's largely just in US, because in Europe we don't have cinemas that are like, actually, I don't think I've ever been to a cinema that belongs to Paramount or 20th Century Fox.
No movie studio owns any theaters. What I'm talking about, Regal is actually, their parent company is Cinemark or something.
That's parent companies.
And so they own theaters all over the world, and AMC also has other. I'm sure you've gone to a theater somewhere in across Europe that's parent company is AMC. Those are the two biggest chains in the world right now. Yeah. So largely, they negotiate with studios as a whole, and so what it works out to be on average is 60% of whatever money a movie makes at a box office, the studio gets to keep. Around 40% the movie theaters get to keep. Movie theaters actually make most of their money through concessions. They don't make most of their money through playing the movie itself. That's why you're paying $6 for a bucket of popcorn that they probably cost them like 20 cents to put together.
But
and whatever the salary they're paying to the person.
To how they make it. Roland had the very point on how movies also make money. So should we add on to that?
I did.
Roland, do you remember?
Totally.
I love Elvis. I hate Elvis.
Oh, that wasn't me.
That was you. Merchandise.
Oh, I did say that.
You did.
That is.
You're right.
But
I didn't say the Elvis bit, so I was like confused. Yeah.
No, I was giving you hints.
No, and I thank you. You did a good job. I just dropped the ball heavily.
Okay.
But yeah, merchandising, that's a big thing. Ever since Star Wars originally came out, merchandising has been a big thing, you know, making action figures and or play sets for movies. And, you know, we see things where it even changes the movie itself, like Batman and Robin. That was one of the big things where they tried to change it to make it more profitable.
It was all about selling merch. The whole thing.
Yeah, but it went terrible because the movie was
one big commercial for selling Batman merchandise.
Yeah,
essentially.
Exactly.
Wow.
The Bat credit card doesn't leave the house without it.
Yeah.
I mean,
MasterCard,
Dan, you're wearing merch as we speak.
Yeah,
this isn't licensed, I'm pretty sure. But
you also bought the jacket.
I did buy the jacket, which I was too lazy today to pull out of his bag that it comes in, which in and of itself, you know, like that speaks to the level of thought that goes into producing these merchandise. But that is like a big revenue stream for the studios, right? They license these third-party companies to make merchandise, whether it's T-shirts, jackets, hot toys, Funko Pops, whatever. Like that, they're all of that stuff drives revenue. That's not what drives revenue at the box office. Now, let's just to finish this part of the conversation, just do the quick math. Now, 926 is where it's sitting right now. 60% of that is going to the studio. So if you take 60% of 926, what does that give you?
555.6 million.
So that is currently Paramount Pictures' profit from this movie, or not even profit, that is their revenue from this movie. Now you minus from that movie the budget that we talked about, which was around 275 total, including marketing budget and production budget. So you subtract 275, what does that give you?
280.6.
280.6 million is what Paramount Pictures is walking away right now as it stands. Now they're already in the green, right? Like they were, or in the black, if you want to say. They're already well and clear of making their money back and making a profit on this movie. Now 280.6. Huh?
Did they make in the first weekend, right?
Well,
the weekend that
no,
opened?
because if you just do the math and work your way back, it took them a couple of weeks to get into the black in terms of making all their money back and then adding on to it, and now they're just, you know, making profit. They will make more than this because the movie's still in theaters. It's supposed to be #1 this weekend again in its 5th week, which I'll have some stats for you guys about that too. But
TQ, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you say make it into the black, what do you mean by that? Because I don't think I've ever heard that before.
So it's like it's financial mumbo jumbo basically. If you're in the red, that means you're losing money. If you're in the black,
you're in debt.
Yeah, and if you're in black, you are making profit. Like you made your money back, and now you're making profit. Now
I was just waiting for something deeper than that, and just completely caught me.
No, that's what it is. If you're in the red, I mean, hey. A movie like Morbius, it's been in the red the whole time. It's never going to get in the black, even with merchandising and then, you know, post-theatrical run licensing fees for SVOD and VOD and linear television broadcasting rights. Even those won't get its money back. But a movie like this, it made it back at the box office. Yeah.
So so we got the how movies make money, but what happened with Top Gun? Why is this film making so much money?
I think this movie is making money because it is a breath of fresh air. It's giving us a movie that does not have a superhero with a cape or other magic or something else or a suit of armor that's flying around doing things and beating up a villain that's a physical embodiment of basically like, you know, some fixed to cuffs fighting. This movie is about a character coming to terms with his life's decisions and where he is today, him seeking out family and where, you know, he probably has never done so before, whether it is with Jennifer Connelly's love interest, whether it is with Brewster as like this father and son relationship.
But this is more about the story. But people go and see it multiple times because from what I found, Paramount said that 16% of the film's audience actually have seen the movie more than twice already. More than once, sorry. And then the 4% have seen it more than 4 times. Imagine 4% of everyone who has seen it have seen this film more than 4 times. It's insane.
That is insane.
It's an example of people voting with their dollars and saying, this is the type of content I want to see. And Dan, you make a lot of really good points about what set it aside. I think there's more to it than that. You know, you mentioned that it's not a superhero movie, but it's something beyond that. It's something that takes place in the real world. And it's about, the entire plot is about aging and about realizing your place in the world once you've sort of aged out of it. On top of that, you've got, you know, this authority figure who comes in and, you know, he's not the young Maverick who says, I'm not listening to you just because I'm a hotshot. Now he's got some years on these people. He's got some experience. And in addition to training the characters, Tom Cruise trained these actors. And so they got to look up to him, you know, in that meta sense of, we're actually going to learn from this guy. And it's not a preachy or didactic movie. It has moral lessons, but they're classic moral lessons. It doesn't really have social commentary. It's not trying to say anything beyond, like, here's a good person who's living his real life, and this is the effect that he's having on these people. You see friendships that matter, and we get nostalgia, but it's not nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's the actual essence of nostalgia, which is to realize things aren't what they used to be. And
but the film wasn't shown in Russia and China. How do you think that affects, or do you think the film would have made a lot more money than that if it was shown? It would have, right?
It would have,
maybe.
Yeah.
And Tom Cruise turns 60 this year, and it's quite incredible that, like, he's going to South Korea as well to promote this film, and he is still being himself at the same time, trying to make all the right things. For example, there was a whole thing about how he greeted the fans at the airport. He did the heart shape with his thumbs, and considering how much publicity. No, it was the heart one.
It's this one.
Yeah, it's a K-pop thing. Considering how much worsen publicity this guy's had, they call him King of Hollywood at this stage.
He kind of is. You know, he's a different kind of actor than really most of the actors that we see these days. He took an active hand in the development of the film, in the training of the other actors, in the plot, and this wouldn't have been made if it wasn't made the way he wanted to do it. He does more than most actors.
He has a really good quality, which is he likes learning. He loves learning, and he's always trying to push himself. And he's 60, and he's like, I have no point in stopping now, and he's trying to better himself. You watch things like the Wired video where he's just listing all these things he knows how to do, and he's just doing it nonchalantly. He's like, there's so much more that I need to do, and I think that really shows in his work.
I think that's really the key distinction between him and every other actor out there right now. I wanted to rant about this for a long time, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. What's really popular right now with actors is the Meisner technique, which is do less. Acting is reacting. And it leads to a lot of these internal monologues, these internal performances where all that the performance is, and we're supposed to find depth in that. Tom Cruise's whole mantra is do more. The first thing everybody knows about Tom is, you say Tom Cruise, you know he does his own stunts. That's the first thing everybody brings up. He does more. When everybody in Hollywood right now is saying do less, Tom Cruise is the only one saying, I'm going to do more.
Yeah.
Bigger,
it's that
better.
commitment, you know? Yeah. Go ahead, Max. Sorry, I don't know.
No, just bigger, better. That's all.
And I just wanted
May the force be with him.
Sorry?
Crazy delay again. Seems like I'm interrupting you all the time.
No, I just couldn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Can we do the test just out of curiosity? Ping.
Yeah, we heard you.
Are we supposed to say ping at the same time?
No, you meant to say pong. That's how you test audio, guys. No?
I've never done that in my life.
I've never done
do
that
it again.
either.
I'm not ready. Hold on.
Okay, it's a European thing then.
Right away,
Ping.
we're supposed to pong.
Pong.
Ping.
Pong.
Pong.
Yeah, 3 seconds at least.
Wow. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What, really?
I'm sorry if I come across as
Well,
it's like
getting
I
back
always
to
wait for a gap and then I say something and then I'm sorry.
we'll let's just account for the slide. Yeah, we will account for it. But I mean, this movie, you guys are talking about like the staying power of a star that is basically charting his own path in a world where everybody's doing something different. And I think that's part of it, the novelty of how Tom Cruise approaches every movie, his commitment to the craft and art form, and it's part of his personality. Is he's inherently always been a bit of a daredevil and somebody who wants to do things for real, and that I think in and of itself is part of the draw of Tom Cruise at the box office. But in addition to that, obviously, I think this movie delivers from a story standpoint, like you said, Andrew, from a character standpoint. It is a breath of fresh air. It is something that shows us, hey, you don't have to be a Star Wars movie. You don't have to be a comic book based superhero movie to make money and make $1 billion at the box office.
It's a fairly simple movie with fairly simple lessons. But what's nice is that they're familiar lessons we haven't heard in a very long time.
Yeah.
There's a morality to it that's refreshing, and it's not new. There's nothing really new about it. It's just classic.
Yeah.
And it's riding nostalgia horse, no?
I don't think so. That's what I was saying before.
Okay.
I think other movies have done nostalgia just to say, hey, we got this actor and we put him back in here for your money. Thanks for your money. Mm-hmm. With this, it goes against every other facet of entertainment, which is to say, stay young forever. And yeah, Tom Cruise looks good for his age, but he's realizing as part of the plot that the world doesn't need him anymore. As hard as he tries,
he gets told that.
To stay
Ed
young.
Harris's general tells him that, like in the first 15 minutes of the movie, literally. He's like,
as hard as he tries to stay young, he realizes he's old and the world has passed him by. And that's a hard lesson that every person on the planet has to face. And Tom Cruise is being vulnerable here and saying, I'm facing that too. There's some reality to this movie that we don't get because everything else is escapism. And here we got to escape escapism. That is what was refreshing.
I like that. That's a good...
That's very, that's the nicest thing you said in a while, Andrew. Yeah,
I like the movie. Look, I got the prize. Glad you like that.
And to kind of top all of this off, let me just point out another record that Top Gun Maverick is about to break. Not only is it going to make $1 billion by the end of this weekend, it's also going to become the third highest movie at the box office in its fifth weekend. Now, right now I'm looking at a list here that does not include Top Gun Maverick in there. It's the biggest fifth weekend at the domestic box office list. It's at thenumbers.com, or I think it's the-numbers.com, where you can do your box office research. What you see here at the top two are American Sniper, 64 million it brought in its fifth week, which is sort of a misnomer. And it's because its fifth week was technically not its fifth week because it played in limited release for the first 4 weeks that it was out, first 3 or 4 weeks. So what it's counting as its fifth week was technically like it's
first or second.
Like first or second in wide release. Yeah, exactly. So what I would say is, that's a bit of that's not quite accurate. Avatar made 42 million in its fifth week. Avatar, by the way, was number one at the box office for like 8 or 9 weeks straight. But it came out in December, and all throughout January, it was number one for like basically 2 months.
Wow.
Top Gun Maverick it's currently projected to make 32 million at the box office, the domestic box office, and therefore it will climb above Titanic into the third spot for having the third highest fifth weekend at the box office ever.
Wow.
And in addition to that, only Avatar, so even American Sniper in its fifth week was not the number one movie at the box office. Now, when I say fifth in this case, I'm meaning the actual fifth week of wide release, not what they're looking at the fifth week here. And even if you count that particular week, that was the second movie at that particular week at the weekend box office. Top Gun Maverick in its fifth week is going to be the number one movie at the box office, the North American domestic box office. That right there speaks to, again, the staying power of this film, how it's connecting with its audiences, and it still continues to play at all the theaters practically that it opened at. Not only, but this movie is now, I mean, this particular week, so, you have premium formats like IMAX and Dolby Prime and things of that nature, ScreenX. Those formats tend to play the newest, biggest movie that comes out that weekend. So the last couple of weeks, it's been playing Lightyear and it's been playing Jurassic World. This particular weekend, a lot of those premium format screens are bringing Top Gun Maverick back to play it in those big premium formats. And I've been waiting for that because I wanted to go see this a second time, but I didn't want to go see it in a normal screen. I wanted to go see it in the biggest screen, best sound possible. And so for myself, I want to go see it again. And right now is the best time to do it. So yeah, I mean, the movie just continues to make its money and is doing it because it's earning that money. It's not just cheap pops like Andrew, it's not cheap nostalgia. There's only a couple of moments where there is nostalgia in this movie, and in both of those moments, they tie it to the character of Pete Mitchell, and it's the story of Maverick, and then they set it up, and then the rest of the movie is charting new ground. So.
I mean, I believe you because here in Malta, when I went to see Elvis, the show, afternoon showing on Friday of Top Gun was finishing essentially, and I saw just a huge amount of people just coming out of the cinema after seeing it, and it's amazing because the film's been there for a month now.
Yeah.
And it just keeps attracting people. I'm considering going to see it on the big screen instead of waiting for the release because I cannot stop hearing you guys praising it, and who would not believe this face? Just look at it.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that we're seeing it make money. I think it's interesting that people are endorsing it the way that they are to say, I'm going to see it again. I'm going to see it. I'm going to tell everybody to see it. Even me. I went in thinking, I'm not going to enjoy this. I didn't like the first one. Hard as I tried, it was a good movie. So tell us what you think. Are you going to see it again? Are you skeptical? Do you think this is Hollywood turning a corner into escaping escapism or into trying to give us more heartfelt content? What does this all mean for you? Let us know. Follow us, like us, subscribe, do that whole thing.